everyone please stand for the pledge? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Cox?
Yes, Madam President. We call a roll. Commissioner President White.
Present.
Commissioner Vice President Webb. Commissioner Vice President Webb. Commissioner Andrews. Commissioner Andrews. Commissioner Gray.
Present.
Commissioner Dr. Harris. Commissioner Dr. Harris. Commissioner Hembry. Commissioner Hembry. Commissioner Johnson. Okay. Commissioner Malone.
Present.
Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Okay, we need Commissioner Johnson to acknowledge. It's on you, sir. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes, sir.
Also in attendance is Mr. Rashawn K. Hassan, Superintendent, Mr. Cameron E. Cox, Chief Financial Officer, Board Secretary, Dr. Mark A. Williams, Chief of School Management, Deputy Superintendent, Dr. Elizabeth Filipatos, Chief of Student Services, Dr. Jean Gordon, Chief of Instruction and Program, Chief Carletta Jones, Chief of Human Resources, Chief Bashan L. Hill, Chief of Marketing Communications, Dr. Danielle Mastro Giovanni, Chief of Equity and School Improvement, Ms. Khalifa Shabazz, General Counsel, Mr. Jeffrey A. Morton, Assistant School Business Administrator, Assistant Board Secretary, Ms. Jocelyn Colon, Ms. Kaylin Mersola, and Ms. Wendy Kellifac, the Student Commissioners. Madam President, we do have a quorum.
Thank you.
Welcome to the business meeting of the Plainfield Board of Education. Members hope that you will find this meeting interesting and informative. We thank you for taking the time out to attend. Please be advised that this and all meetings of the board are open to the media and public, consistent with the Open Public Meetings Act, and that the advance notice required therein has been provided to the Courier News and Tap Into on Tuesday, March 11th, 2025, to be advertised on Friday, March 14th, 2025, and also provided to the Plainfield Public Schools District website, the Plainfield City Clerk, Police Department, and Plainfield Public Library for posting. Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I do have some brief remarks this evening, which will be followed by our highlight video that we present every business meeting each month. So tonight I want to begin by honoring the women who lead, nurture, build, and break barriers every day. To my fellow commissioners, there's one other woman outside of myself, our dedicated administration and staff, the brilliant women in our community, and women everywhere. You are the backbone of our homes, our schools, our cities, and our country. Your strength often goes unseen, your labor often goes uncompensated, yet you carry the weight of the world with grace, resilience, and power. We celebrate you this Women's History Month and every day. I also want to sincerely thank everybody for being here tonight. We have a few extra people in the room this evening, not reflective of our norm. But this level of engagement is exactly what we hope for, community members showing up, asking questions, and taking an active interest in the future of our district. That is what matters. That is how we grow and continue to move Plainfield Public Schools forward together. Now, within my remarks, I'm going to address a concern that has brought many of you here, which is the proposed tax increase, and this is only me addressing this from a board standpoint. Mr. Hassan will speak with you all later. There's been a lot of information circulating, and unfortunately, much of it has been misleading or taken out of context. The 36% figure being shared refers to the increase on the school tax levy, which is only a small portion of your total property tax bill, not the overall increase you will see on your property taxes. The school levy currently represents the 2.14% of which was presented last week of the total valuation of all property in the city. The superintendent's proposed increase brings that rate to 2.92% based on a total property valuation of a little over $1.2 billion. Without this being explained clearly, I understand how residents could feel misled and misinformed. To clarify the process, the budget is created and recommended by the superintendent and his administration, not the school board. Our role is to review, ask questions, and vote. We do not simply just come up with the numbers. We rely on the expertise of the professionals that we hired, the superintendent and whom he hired, that prepared this budget for months to present, that should be in the best interest of the district and that we believe is in the best interest of the district. Our Finance Committee is still meeting consistently to discuss viable options ahead of our final review of the budget, which is on April 29th. Furthermore, as board president, with the support of our board, we have charged the superintendent with the task of reevaluating the proposed budget to avoid having an increase at all or propose an alternate solution. I also want to be clear on a very important thing when we're discussing and clarifying topics of discussion from the board to the public, and that's that I do not condone personal attacks, especially over a budget that was neither prepared nor presented by myself or any commissioner on this board. However, I do welcome the meaningful conversation about our public school system because that particular type of dialogue is what's necessary. Tonight, the superintendent will walk us through his recommendation, provide clarity, and hopefully address many of your concerns that you have raised on social media and through emails and communications to the superintendent and the district. This is an important conversation, and I'm glad that we're having this conversation openly and transparently. I hope it brings the understanding and perspective that you need and is in alignment as we work towards being fiscally responsible while continuing to move this district forward. Let's continue to seek the answers directly from the source, not from assumptions or from social media. The best outcomes for our students come from informed, united communities. Thank you again for your presence, your passion, and your partnership. And join me as we watch our month of March highlight and review.
Can I make a motion to move public comment to now?
Not right now. We're going to watch the review first.
Motion to move public comment to now.
Can you cue up the video, Nick?
I made a motion on the floor. The motion needs to be addressed first. That's Robert Rules.
It's been
Do we have a
moved,
second for this motion?
it's been moved and, excuse me, there's a motion on the floor to move public comment to now. Is there a second? Motion fails for lack of a second.
Nick, may you cue up the highlight video, please? Thank you. And it's overshadowing what we're watching. right, thank you. That ends my remarks. Mr. Hassan, before you give your remarks, I want to check with the student commissioners to see if they have any remarks to provide for this meeting. Are you guys prepared to report? Okay, so share your remarks so that we can get into Mr. Hassan's report.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
At PHS, a select group of students, including me, got the chance to visit the New Jersey State House for Legislative Day. The JAG program had the opportunity to sit down with state representatives, including Congressman Stanley. We talked about Jobs for American Graduates JAG and how it changed our lives. We shared personal stories about how this program has shaped us, made us into students, and helped us figure out plans for our future. One of the biggest highlights of this day was meeting New Jersey 1st Puerto Rican State Senator, Ms. Teresa Ruiz. She shared some inspirational words, making us push further into our futures. 3 seniors from Plainfield High School were honored at the Union County Unsung Heroes Award ceremony for their hard work and dedication to our school. Alberto Romero, our JAG state president, was recognized for his leadership and the great things that he has done for our school, so shout out to him. The Young Women's Club, led by Ms. Megan, volunteered at the food bank of Hillside, helping sort and package food for families in need. This just shows how PHS cares for giving back to the community. Some of our JAG female students attended BU, Not Her, Women's Entrepreneurship Workshop at Rollway High School, where they learned how to use unique skills to start their own businesses. They had participated in speed networking events and had the opportunity to talk to 15 different businesswomen and how they got to the positions where they are today. Students in the 911 telecom courses, led by Sergeant Bethlehem, got to hear from former PHS students who completed the course and are now working in the field. They shared their success stories and how being able to get the certification that they need at PHS helped them getting and finding a job. Dr. Brookins, one of our allied health teachers, took a group of students to the Students to STEM, a state-of-the-art STEP laboratory, where they worked with professional lab equipment and hands-on experiment. It was a great opportunity to experience what it's like to be in the STEM field. With the help of Ms. Scala, our student guidance counselor, Mr. Favreau, and Dr. Brookins, students, including me, participated in an intensive health session where we learned how to take blood pressure with real-world medical instruments. It was such a cool experiment and gave us a real taste of what it's like to be in the health field. Attorney Clara and her team visited PHS to make sure students got the latest updates on immigration law policies. They went to different classrooms to ensure students had the information needed to navigate any changes in the system. To wrap up Black History Month, PHS, the Student Council, hosted a pop-up shop during lunch where students could check out and receive cultural items celebrating Black history and our creativity. A huge shout out to Ms. Smith and Michael, a senior at PHS, for making this happen. And a shout out to our boys varsity basketball team who won Group 4 championships title. Their hard work and dedication and teamwork paid off and got us to where we are today. And also a big shout out to Najai Haynes for being 2025 Mr. Hoop Zone Player of the Year, helping us win our first state championships in 2012. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Thank you for all of your updates. Next, ladies.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So this month at PAWS, we had a lot of events, including our spectacular pie day, where teachers were pied with whipped cream and students got to pay for a pie per piece. And the money collected was given to the teacher who got most pied, and they got to give it to a charity of their choice. So Mr. Sneed did settle on the liver transplant charity, and they were given $100. We also had our French week, where students from inside and outside the French class showcased a piece of French culture. There were poems, trivia, vocal and dance performances, and French and lunch breakfast, including crepes as desserts. We also had our Black History Month / Women's History Month fun day, where basically kids got to choose what block and discover different things about Black horror film directors, gospel music. There was a bunch of activities that were really popular, so it was really fun. Academic-wise, we also had our Honorable Ice Cream Assembly, where we rewarded students for their outstanding work throughout the marking periods. There were also college visits to Rutgers and Montclair. We also got to see women's and men's empowerment and partake of them and learn critical skills on how to be the world's future leaders. We also have our Pause Spring Formal for the first time, which is open to all students in the Plainfield district. So we just asked the community if they can hype that up as well. And that's on April 11th. Students do not have many concerns. However, they do want to know more information about the 6th graders that are coming in and the rooming and the teachers and how they're planning to facilitate that. Pause is a really small school, but we're trying to just get more information. We're definitely excited that we're being able to welcome a new grade, but they just want more information on that, or so I was told. Some teachers do have, want the security to be a little bit more tighter in terms of backpack checks, just making sure that they thoroughly check the backpacks. But other than that, students at Pause continue to strive in every manner and will continue to represent Plainfield District proudly. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Pinnacle.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello, good evening.
So at Pinnacle Academy High School for the month of March 2025, our students conducted a chess mentoring program at Charles Booker Elementary. 17 students gave introductory classes to nearly 300 students during lunch sessions and will be returning in May. Also in JAG as well as PHS, we went to the New Jersey State House, and they also gave us a tour and explained a little bit how everything works in the house, and we also saw the office of our governor, Phil Murphy. The students went to Topgolf as a reward for good behavior, good attendance, and being on track academically.
Thank you very much to our student commissioners. All right, Ms. Hassan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening, commissioners, community members. I have a few items to go to review this evening in my report. I will try to be as brief as possible with these first items, which focuses on our district's portrait of a graduate process. So our mission here in Plainfield Public Schools is as follows. We, in partnership with our community, are accountable for creating a safe, inclusive, nurturing, learning environment for all students to achieve their maximum potential. This mission statement was crafted in collaboration with our community members, stakeholders, as we worked hand in hand to develop a 5-year strategic plan for our organization. We're working diligently each and every day to execute and implement that 5-year strategic plan. And this phase of the process, we're moving forward with some great initiatives. And as we move into the rest of the presentation, I want to start by asking if we could just have a quick moment of silence. We recently lost a former employee of our district, Mr. Frank J. Dincuff, who was a principal at Cook Elementary School and Woodland Elementary School. So please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. One of the new and exciting initiatives that we brought online in our school district has been our esports program. Now, esports program is not just the athletics and competitive aspects of esports. We are the first school district in the state of New Jersey to establish a CTE and career pathway for esports. And as we continue to build out and expand our program, we are proud to announce that we will be hosting the first annual Esports Invitational Tournament here in Plainfield Public Schools the weekend of March 9th. So March 9th through 11th. This is, in fact, in a national tournament, and we've received commitments from other school districts throughout the country to fly in their esports team so that they can compete and participate in this initiative. Esports is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And if you watch esports, most of the individuals who participate in gaming, they do not look like the children in our school district. So I say to those individuals, if you can do it, why can't our students? We want a piece of that pie as well. So we're setting our students up for success. And again, we ask that everyone come out and support this initiative. Now, moving forward with our Portrait of a Graduate process. We embarked on this journey roughly in October this school year. And through this process, we've worked with internal stakeholders to identify a number of competencies and key skills, and also some attributes that we believe every student should develop by the time they graduate and leave Plainfield Public Schools. So this vision, it really goes beyond the traditional academic achievement, but also ensures that students are equipped with critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and also social and emotional skills. These skills that we know will be necessary for them to thrive in college, career, and life. Also keeping in mind that this aligns with our 4Es model that pushes for every student to have a post-secondary plan upon graduating, and it should align to one of the pathways of either entrepreneurship, enlistment, enrollment, or employment. So at this time, I want to roll out and share the timeline of our actions. Again, we started in October. We defined the Portrait of a Graduate, then move forward with defining the success with our internal committee, and then we move forward with creating prototypes for a graduate, and that is really the visuals. I'm going to walk you all through that this evening. And we're in this phase now of receiving stakeholder feedback and analyzing that feedback so we can package this all together and then bring it back to the board and community for a final vote. And I just want to state that when we get to the prototypes, the images that you see were generated utilizing artificial intelligence, right? So you may see a perfect image, and if anyone has ever used an AI tool like ChatGPT to create any type of image and you've asked it to include text, the AI tool is not the best speller. So you will see some grammatical errors. They are not from our team. They are, in fact, from the artificial intelligence, and they are just prototypes. So there's a survey, and you'll see that at the end with the QR code. But as you take the survey, we want you to focus on these guiding questions. And these are the same questions that we pose to our internal committee and stakeholders, which also included members of my Superintendent's Advisory Council. Starting with this, what prototype of an image do you think will best represent our district? Here's the first image that was developed by the internal stakeholder groups. And the vision here highlighting students as they are about to embark upon their journey to that next phase of their life after they've graduated from Plainfield Public Schools. You can see the cardinal sitting high in the sky on the horizon. And in the background, you can see the text, which would be equivalent to the attributes, key skills, or competencies. Image 2 is the cardinal. And as the students told me today, they said, Mr. Hassan, this one is very plain, it's very simple. When I looked at it, I said, you know, this kind of makes me think that this could be a special collection post stamp or something that goes on the front of a nice t-shirt or sweatshirt. But it is clean, and I think it also fits with the image and the branding of Plainfield Public Schools. But here we have a cardinal, right, with his cap on, representing graduation, and below it, that would be a representation of the text, which would be the key skills, competencies, or attributes. Now, image 3, I think, in my opinion, if I'm being a little biased, I think it brings it all together. You see the image of a student, right, proudly wearing their cap and gown, and on the side, not only do you see what would be representative of the key skills, attributes that students would develop prior to graduation, you also see small text and a definition of what that is, an evidence statement of some sort. And when I personally look at this image, I think of posters being plastered around our schools and around our community, sharing what these skills or attributes are that we're going to help our students develop. Also see a student like Wendy Califac being able to take a short one-pager and passing that on to another student who may want to learn more about Plainfield Public Schools and what her experience is as a student in our district. So these are the 3 images. These are included in the survey. You'll see the QR code. We ask that all of our community members and stakeholders actually vote on these 3 images and provide any feedback. Now, I'd like to get into the core competencies, and I want you to think about this question as you review them. Do these core competencies and icons best describe our students? And the students that we want to see leaving our school district and taking their rightful place as the leaders of this community and of the world. Collaboration. Ensuring that our students graduate with that unique skill set and that they are able to collaborate. Now, a collaborator is one who focuses on collective efforts and teamwork and also has the ability to effectively work with others to achieve a common goal. It doesn't matter which pathway a student selects. If we're talking about entrepreneurship, you have to collaborate. If you are going to enlist in the armed services, you better collaborate. If you're going to go into the employment, if you're going to be enrolled in a college or university or technical institute, you have to understand how to collaborate. Being a visionary, someone who has a strong, imaginative, and innovative foresight, right? We want our students to be those who propose the ideas or plans that can inspire others to drive change, right? So here in our school district, we say if we're not at the table, we're on the menu. We want to be the people who are driving the change, and we want that for our students. We want our students to develop social intelligence, right? And this is the skill to manage our emotions during social interactions and relationships effectively. And I think Madam President illustrated this in her remarks earlier today. It is important for us to be able to have constructive conversations and dialogue. And we can agree to disagree, but we have to ensure that we're able to manage our emotions under each of those circumstances. We've seen what happens in communities and even households where children don't develop this social intelligence. They go out sometimes and they make mistakes, and they make mistakes that they are often unable to recover from. We can't have that for our children. The next is drive, right? Really having that tenacity, a strong motivation and determination to achieve goals and to succeed. And the last, but what I think is probably most important, is to develop a skill set of being a lifelong learner. And lifelong learners, including myself in that, we actively seek knowledge and skills throughout our entire life, beyond our formal education. And we are individuals who understand various perspectives. So as we talk about moving our community forward, moving our school district forward, we could never do that without having a seat at the table for every perspective, every way of thinking, every walk of life. And as lifelong learners, we are constantly seeking the opportunities to expand our knowledge base and our skill set to bring value to our communities. Now, these are the images that were created by the committee. Please understand that we have an awesome and an amazing Office of Marketing and Communications, and any icon that they draft will be absolutely amazing once it's done. But these were the initial drafts that were developed by our committee, and we wanted to give credence and just due to them. You have the hands holding for collaboration. We have an open textbook and a globe representing a lifelong learner. We have the drive, social intelligence, which really aligns with the work that we're doing each and every day to build up social emotional learning and intelligence for all of our students. And then we have the vision, the visionary who's reaching for the star, understanding that their opportunities are limitless. As we gather feedback, we are going to continue to address each one of these stakeholder groups. We've already garnered feedback from our school representatives, district staff members. Tonight, our commissioners are receiving this information. My student advisory council received this information and voted today, gave some very good feedback. And we're also going to ensure that we send this out and include our parents and community partners. So everyone will receive this code. If you want to, you can take out your cell phone and scan the QR code, it will take you directly to a Microsoft form, and you can complete that survey, and that survey will be reviewed by our internal team members. We will analyze all of that data, make the necessary changes, and then bring this back to the board and the community at a future board meeting. Our target to have this completed is by June, because we want to hit the ground running and have this rolled out for the 25-26 school year. And the last piece of this that's extremely important is that the portrait of a graduate should guide all of our decision-making for our school district as we move forward. So if we go back to the table and revise our strategic plan, we should use the portrait of a graduate to guide our decision-making. So as a superintendent, I would say to our chief of instruction and program, if she came to me and wanted to roll out a new program for our students, I would in fact ask her how that program aligns with the skills and competencies that we've outlined in our portrait of a graduate. This should all connect and all tie back, because every decision that we make should be for the betterment of our students. I'll now move forward with a budget update. And I want to say thank you to our community members who are here today, those who are online. We had, I think, a thorough budget proposal that was presented at last week's meeting. However, there's always room for improvement. We look forward to receiving feedback. The feedback we've seen on social media, we received some phone calls, emails, et cetera. I'm going to try my best to walk everyone through where we are, right, as far as our proposals, and to answer some of the questions that have been posed by community members. So the first question that was asked of us is, what has the district done with the $11 million increase in funding? So for those of you who don't know what this $11 million is, this is the increase in funding that we receive from state aid. I will tell you, as a superintendent of schools, I didn't have the opportunity to propose anything with this $11 million because the district's salaries and benefits are projected to increase by $12.4 million as we enter next school year. So although we received an additional $11 million in state aid, that was all eaten up by the anticipated increase to our salaries and our benefits. Now, as a school district, we put ourselves in a position to be very competitive in the market. I want to just tie this all back to our strategic plan, the strategic plan that was developed in collaboration with our community members. One of those tasks was to go out, increase and enhance the salaries that we pay to our employees to make Plainfield Public Schools more attractive and more competitive. We've done so, and as a result, we know that our salaries and benefits will increase. So we see this $12 million increase that's anticipated to occur going into next year. So that answers the question of what happened with that $11 million. We also know here that there's an increase of $5.3 million that will go to charter schools. I want to be very clear about this. I'm sharing this information for transparency, not for us to pick fights between the traditional public schools, which are Plainfield Public Schools, and our charter schools. I want to also be very clear about one thing. If we were to close a charter school today in our community, as a superintendent, I would be standing here before the board trying to figure out where we would house those children, because we have a capacity issue throughout the district. So I've heard the rhetoric and I've seen it on Facebook, I've seen it on social media. This is not to tear us apart. This is to be transparent about what's happening with the fiscal resources that we've been charged and tasked with managing and overseeing for this community and for our taxpayers. So, 12.4 million, 5.3 million. So that's about, what, we're looking at $17.7 million. So we received an additional $11 million in state aid, but these costs here are increasing by $17 million combined. That means that with everything else remaining constant, we entered this budgeting process $6 million in the hole, if you will, or $17 million in the hole, if you will, for this, I'm sorry, $6 million if you do the delta between what we received in the state aid increase and these two categories alone increasing. This doesn't even take into account inflation, right? And everything else that we have to deal with as a school district. So as humans, as taxpayers, as individuals, PSE&G, 17% increase on electricity going up in June. That's 17% for the individual taxpayer, but guess what? We have to pay PSE&G for electricity as a school district. So all of the things that we worry about as residents, as individual taxpayers, those things are magnified when you think about a school district as large as ours that has 1,600 employees and is providing services and supports for over 10,000 students. Now, I've gone back with my team, and we've worked very diligently. I want to thank Mr. Johnson, Mr. Webb, Mr. Malone, Mr. Gray, members of the Finance Operations Committee, along with our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Cox. We had a meeting yesterday. We really put our heads together to figure out what we could do to reduce costs in that budget proposal to offer an alternative scenario. But I want to be very clear about what I'm about to walk through now in terms of these reductions. These reductions does not mean that these things go away. It simply means that they're being kicked out into the future and have to be addressed in another budget year. So we could very well be here next school year having the same conversation because the students at Cedar Brook and Evergreen, they still need to have their unit ventilators replaced. The sensory playgrounds, we've been able to reduce some costs, but the children in our special education programs, they still need to have those playgrounds built so that they can have a great experience like every other student. So we've been able to make a conservative reduction to the estimated cost to renovate the district admin building, which is currently the Buff 1 location on 7th Street. Our initial estimates from our architect came in at $8.8 million. We've been able to defer some of those expenditures. We think we can do them in future years. That's allowing us to reduce that by $2.2 million. But again, these are items that will have to be addressed in future years. And just to give you an example of what some of those items are, we're talking about roof replacements, which as we know, you cannot kick that down the road too long. We're talking about upgrades to boilers, HVAC systems, which are infrastructure. None of this is to go out here and beautify and make a building pretty. This is to make a building sustainable and a decent place for employees to go to when they show up for work each and every day. The unit ventilators, we will move forward with one school and defer the second school for a future year. We are unable to make any reductions to the CTE upgrades, phase 2, taking place at Plainfield High School, which is estimated at $2.2 million. Again, that is something that is clearly articulated in the 5-year strategic plan, and we've been very aggressive in executing and delivering on that. Our sensory playgrounds, we will be able to move forward. We found a creative solution to cover the cost of the early learning centers upgrade by leveraging funds from the preschool education grant fund that we have. And we're completely removing from the table the ADA ramp at the Hub Stein Sports Complex. We will utilize the existing ADA ramp and have any spectators, whether they're here for the home team or the visiting team, to utilize that ADA compliant ramp that we currently have in place. Now, in overall reductions, we've been able to find reductions of roughly $3.6 million across our capital projects and maintenance. We've also been able to address roughly $221,000 in educational subscriptions. We saw some redundancies that existed, and this is really boiling down to some curriculum materials, et cetera. And we've also been able to reduce another $750,000 from our transportation department budget. And that's finding creative ways to reduce costs for some of the management fees. We are also going to leverage the opportunities to offer parental contracts for parents. And for those who don't know what parental contracts are, as a school district, we have the opportunity to enter into an agreement with the parent and allow that parent to provide the transportation services to for their child to and from school. as opposed to us transporting that child on a school bus. That allows us to bring in some immense savings if we're able to leverage that. Some instances, we're paying up to $40,000, $50,000 per student, depending on the route. It is more cost-effective if we're able to leverage that agreement with a few parents and pay them maybe $8,000 or $9,000 to transport in their own vehicle, as opposed to putting the student on that bus. So it will take us some work. It's something that's new, but we're going to try our best to get as many parents signed up for that process as possible. So if the district was to propose a 0% tax levy increase, and that is considering all of the reductions I just outlined, we would still be short roughly $4.1 million. And in order to balance the budget, we would have to turn Plainfield Public Schools into the U.S. Department of Education in Washington, D.C., and move through our school district with reductions in to our human capital and personnel. And this would start with our support staff roles. It will require us to reduce the number of professional school counselors we have in our organization, social workers, and then moving into some of the other critical positions that we believe are needed to help support the whole student. We would also ensure that any teaching positions are obviously filled, and that would mean that we would also need to make a reduction in any of our data coaches positions, where we have individuals who are pulled from the classroom. We would also have to put all of our instructional coaches back into the classroom as well. That is the grim reality. I want to assure you that we've done our very best as an administration to go in and trim as much fat as we could from our budget. And at this point, I do not see any circumstance or situation in which we could offer or propose to the board a budget that includes a 0% tax levy increase. I know that when we speak of taxes, this is very personal, and there are individuals in this community who are today just trying to figure out how they can make it and get those tax bills paid. And we don't want to add a burden onto the backs of our taxpayers. However, we are asking to also take our school district to the next level, and all of those things that we ask for, they come with a price tag associated with them. So there's some push, there's some pull, there's some give, there's some take, but we don't have a path forward that allows us to move with a 0% tax levy increase. Now, just wanted to share some additional information. This has caused me to dig deeper as a superintendent, right, to really understand what's happening and what's taking place throughout our county and even throughout the state. So I was able to receive a copy of a tax form from a tax assessor for the county that shows what the average taxpayer contributes in school taxes by municipality for Union County. You can see, starting with Westfield Township at the top, the average taxpayer in Westfield, out of their tax bill, $11,476 is going towards the school district. Now, we go down and we keep going to the right, we see this declining, but when we get down to Plainfield, to our city, our community, we see that on average, and it could vary from taxpayer, these are just averages, the average taxpayer's bill, a portion of it that comes to the district, is $2,429. The only school districts in Union County where that rate is lower is Winfield Township, which is a small community of trailer parks, right? They outsource and they send their students out. And then we have Elizabeth School District, which is the lowest, and I think that's easily explainable because of the size of the school district, them being the largest school district in the county, but also being an SDA district like us. They are heavily dependent upon state aid in that community, right? And the numbers pan out a little differently for them than they do for us here in Plainfield. Now, here are some additional questions that were posed by community members. Why is the tax increase 36%? I think Mrs. Wyatt answered this question in her remarks. It is not a 36% increase on an individualized overall tax bill. All right. What we've proposed in scenario 2, which was selected by the board, this would equate to an increase of roughly $853 on the school tax, and that equates to roughly $71 per month if you thought about yourself putting away the money for your tax bill every month. All right. We cannot speak to any potential increases that may take place on the side of the municipality. That is for the council and for the mayor to decide. So I can't give any information about that. Right. Investments. What is the district investing in? So if you look at the line item budget that was presented, we do have a line under revenues for investments, and I think we've tagged that at $1.1 million. We've worked with our bank to allow us to do what's called a daily sweep to gain interest on the funds that are held in our accounts. It is paid off big time for our school district. So whenever we have, let's say, a major project, a capital project or something, and we have funds that are given to us in advance for those projects, we leverage those funds, right? It's a guarantee. We never lose anything as a school district because we have to use what's known as a bank that's certified through GUTPA, Governmental Unit Depository Protection Act. And that ensures that the district never loses a dime. But by leveraging that, we're able to gain interest on these daily sweeps, and that accumulates during the course of the school year, and we're able to bring in net roughly $1 million. So that's us being entrepreneurs and playing our part to also make sure that we are doing our due diligence and not just asking the community, right, to foot a bill. Why scenario 2? Scenario 2 was presented to the board because scenario 2 allowed us to do everything that we presented to the board. It allowed us to move forward without having any reductions in force, but it also allows us to protect the assets that we've already built up in our existing reserve accounts. So, contrary to what was put out in the Tap Into article, the district is not in fiscal or financial distress. Our school.
Can you say that again, please?
The district is not in fiscal or financial distress. Our school district is in a very good position financially. However, when developing a budget, you can't just live in the present moment. As a superintendent of school, I can't ignore what's happening in Washington, D.C. right now, which we know will ultimately hit our doorstep right here in Plainfield Public Schools. We have reserve accounts totaling $12.7 million. And the reason we proposed scenario 2 is because we want to protect those reserve accounts. We do not want to deplete them because we do not know what is coming from Washington and how we will have to respond to that in the future fiscal year. And the last question, and I saw a lot of chatter about this in particular on social media. And in the spirit of transparency, we also received an Oprah request about this same item from Tap Into. So we can expect an article to probably run in the paper that's going to focus on picking apart the district's travel budget. Our district's travel budget is less than 1% of the total operating budget for our school district. I want to say that again. The district's travel budget is less than 1% of the total operating budget. Our travel budget, contrary to what individuals have been saying on social media and out in the community, it is more than just the board's travel for conferences, for professional development. That includes professional development opportunities for our teachers, our administrative staff members. It also includes our contractual obligations to provide reimbursements for employees who use their vehicles to travel from building to building or to even attend county or state meetings on behalf of Plainfield Public Schools. And lastly, but most importantly, that travel budget also includes the travel for our students. For our students who represent us, like Wendy Kellerfack and our JAG program, that includes the budget that we've created to ensure that our students have that opportunity. It also includes the cost for our students who will be attending the FAMU band camp this summer so that they can develop their skills and hopefully find a path for themselves when they decide to move on from Plainfield Public Schools. Maybe we'll have the opportunity to see those students beating down their drums, blowing their trumpets, their saxophones, and everything else on one of those large fields representing Plainfield Public Schools. So as you pick that apart, ensure that the headline reads, Plainfield Public Schools is providing travel opportunities for students who may not otherwise have had that experience. Again, these are the scenarios that have been proposed. I'm saying to the board again and to the community, under proposal 2, we get to do everything that we outlined originally without making those cuts and, just making it a really tight and tough school year. However, I have proposed that alternative, which shows us making a reduction in over $4 million in costs, which means that if the board wishes to move forward with that proposal, we would in fact be able to cut scenario 2 in half, right? Essentially, what we're asking for in that particular scenario was to do a 2% tax levy, which equates to a little over $500,000. And we also asked to claim $9 million in unclaimed taxes. Taxes that the school district had not collected in prior years, and as we know, if we do not collect it or claim it, we lose it. Based on the additional cost reductions, I think we can conservatively cut that number in half from the $9 million to $4.5 million, which could ultimately result in that average increase for taxpayers being reduced in half. Again, I want to stress that I do not see a path forward that allows us to do a 0% tax levy increase, and there's no other FAT or any other initiative. And I don't want to say FAT because we try to use a lean process, zero-based budgeting when we develop our budget to make sure that everything is needs-based. But I've banged my head against the wall. Our team, we've banged our head against the wall. We don't have anything else that we could cut in the budget unless we start cutting off limbs and offering up team members, personnel that we need to run the school district. And I don't think that that's what we want as an administration, and I don't think that's what the board wants for our community. So I will stop there and take any questions, Madam President.
All right, I'll now entertain questions from any commissioners. If any commissioners have any questions of Ms. Hassan.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Commissioner Smith.
To begin, I'd just like to thank you for clarifying and providing all of this much-needed information to us and to the community. Thank you for highlighting the fact that the budget was recommended to the board, and the board does not create the budget. We vote with the information that is provided for us, so thank you for taking a deeper dive and providing more, because it's very essential. Just for purpose of public clarification, can you just confirm that the proposed tax increase are not a consequence of any mismanagement of funds within the district? You said it, but because I just want to hear it again, so everyone else can hear it.
So this is, the proposed tax levy increase is not a result of fiscal mismanagement, right? So the district has undergone, we undergo an annual comprehensive financial review of the district's finances. We've received clean audits, right? That's been presented at public meetings. We've also recently completed, even beyond that, but I think we've seen some of our best years over the last 3. We've been able to build up reserve accounts. When I came into the school district as the CFO in the 21-22 school year, those reserve accounts that I said have $12.7 million in them today, they had zero in the 21-22 school year. That's a testament to the great fiscal management that we are continuing to execute and implement each and every day. And we've also undergone a legislative audit, right? So school districts in New Jersey that receive state aid that exceeds a certain portion of your revenue, you are mandated to undergo a legislative audit, and they send a team in from the comptroller's office. We had the auditing team in our school district for 2 school years, reviewing everything from top to bottom. We had a few recommendations for processes that we can improve and tighten up on in our organization, but there were no findings that showed that there was any fiscal mismanagement or that we had bad processes that would cause our school district to be in fiscal harm. So we are in great shape, and these recommendations are a result, I think, of us doing something that we should have done years ago.
I just have one more question. Speaking of the reserves you mentioned, would it be possible to allocate the $4.2 million that we're short from the $12.7 million reserve fund to cover the current shortfall while simultaneously implementing strategies to replenish the reserves like you've done over time in order to delay a tax increase at this time?
So I would say yes to that if there was evidence that we would have alternative revenue sources to help us offset that in the future year. Now, the way that one strategy that we've been able to use is managing the grants appropriately. Now, I mean, we showed a slide that really was the fiscal cliff. We've seen how our state aid has gone up over the last 5 years, but simultaneously, the federal grants decreased, right? When we leveraged the federal grant opportunities, we had balanced budgets. We found ways to use grant money as opposed to the general operating budget. That freed up funding and built the surplus for us. We don't have that revenue source coming in anymore, which is why I really stressed not depleting the reserve accounts, because I cannot say with 100% certainty, and I think I would be irresponsible as a superintendent if I stood here today and told you that we could withdraw that $4.1 or $4.2 million and that we can have a firm strategy to replenish it in light of us losing those other revenue streams.
Thank you for clarifying.
You're welcome.
Do we have any, go ahead, Commissioner Gray.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Hello? Yep. So some people will cite the increase in executive level positions. Some people will cite the increase in overall staff of the roughly 1,600 employees that are now with the Board of Education. Can you, maybe your team maybe looked into it, but how many of those 1,600 employees actually live, reside in Plainfield, that pay the taxes here, live here?
457.
Awesome. So the point I'm trying to illustrate with that is that possibly making those cuts will cut deep into members of our community that live here, pay taxes here, go to the same coffee shops that we go to.
Yeah, so I want to hone in on that second part you made. So in essence, we would find ourselves in a position where we could be reducing our workforce by the same, right, taxpayers who we need to pay a tax bill to run the school district. Let's think about that for a minute. If we reduced our workforce, and out of that workforce that we reduce, you have Plainfield residents, how would they, in fact, pay their taxes, which also help support the school district?
Do we have any other questions by commissioners?
Yes, Mr. Hassan, can you just briefly go over some of the facility upgrades and how we funded those, like the Anna Booker School and the turf field over at Hubstein? Thank you.
Yeah, so it's a great question. over the last few years, when we received an increase in our state aid, because we've had what we call deferred maintenance, we've leveraged to the best of our ability increases, right, to the state aid sometimes to put in for capital projects. And we've also made withdrawals from our reserve accounts in prior years to cover the cost of some projects. In addition to that, we've been very aggressive in getting ourselves grant opportunities. So over the last 3 school years, we've leveraged more than $20 million in grant opportunities to do major upgrades in our facilities. Those things included adding new unit ventilators, boilers in some instances. We've leveraged the ESIP initiative, which allows us to, execute energy efficient projects and to take the cost savings for those projects to then use them to make upgrades. So if you walk in our schools now, you will see LED lights being upgraded throughout our district facilities. You will see screens that have been installed in many of our schools to keep the sunlight out, but that's a way for us to also reduce energy costs inside of our schools. So those projects are taking place. And the last piece that I think has been extremely important, we've been able to receive almost $4 million from FEMA, and we've used those for facility upgrades. So that beautiful auditorium that you see at Plainfield High School, that was not covered in the district general operating budget. That was not covered by taxpayer dollars. That was covered by FEMA. And the way we were able to recoup those funds, we went back to the 2019-2020 school year, and FEMA allowed us to submit for our costs that we incurred during the global pandemic. And it was a very strenuous project. The team had to work diligently, make sure that we were able to substantiate all of the claims, but that resulted in a net of roughly $4 million that we put into various projects. We also received, over the course of the last 3 school years, to the tune of $5 million or $6 million from the SDA for capital improvements, and these are grants that they make up. They're grants, if you will, but it's not a strenuous process. You literally fill out the form and say, this is what we would use the allotment for. We've used the vast majority of that funding to rehab the swimming pool over at Plainfield High School that we had to take offline during the 21-22 school year because the water was contaminated, severe flooding, and we've done a complete upgrade, and that pool will be back online in a few months to allow us to effectively serve our community and provide swimming programs, not just for our students, but for adults in the communities, in collaboration with the city of Plainfield under the leadership of Ronnie Taylor and the initiative that she pushes out. And I know you're one of the biggest swim fans here, and you're gonna be excited about that. But we are too, because once the swimming pool is online, guess what? We'll be able to reduce costs because we currently rent the pool at Wartlow Hartridge and transport our students to that facility each and every day for practice. So some of these expenses that we know we have now, they'll start to fall off. But again, I don't see a path forward with a 0% tax levy increase based on what we've done. You're welcome.
Any more questions? Commissioner Webb, you got a question? Okay.
One last question. So the $750,000 that you were able to eliminate in order to sort of incorporate now, I'm calling it like for carpooling cost, right? How is that? So there's some, it was like, if you slides back. Right, next slide. After this one. So right there, the travel.
Oh, the transportation?
Right, you talked about sort of a buddy system. I'm just categorizing that in my mind, but it was where members who are like agreeing to use their own transportation, they get some sort of stipend.
It could, but so
okay.
I'll use you as an example. You would not be able to have this because you're a board member, but I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm interested, sort of like people in my community who recently like decided to attend Emerson and Cook. And
so there are some This is really for our students who receive special education programming.
Okay.
And their IEP requires their child to be transported to and from school, right? So there are some instances where the parent wants to, transport their child, right? There are some who would like that. This is also applicable for grandparents as well. That was a new change in the regulations. So not only would a parent have the ability to, but they can also designate a grandparent. The only requirement is that they have the required liability insurance on their vehicle. And we have some flexibility to also work with them to help them acquire that, through this process. So we'll work closely with families to make it to streamline this as much as possible. And if we have any takers, great. I think it's a good sign for us. And one thing that's also baked into the transportation, we didn't necessarily talk about it. We've heard the community, particularly our parents who have their children participating in athletic programs and field trips. Because we've handled all of our transportation services in district, we have a lot of requests. We have drop-offs for VOTEC, shared time students. We have pickup and drop-offs for PODs. We have pickup and drop-offs for every school where there's a student who has an IEP that determines they can have transportation. We have field trips that take place during the course of the school day. And at the end of every day, we have athletic programs and also after-school programs that our students receive transportation for. And our transportation does not just include children who attend Plainfield Public Schools. We also provide our transportation for our students who are enrolled in our charter schools in the city, right? It's a huge bill, but one thing we heard loud and clearly is that there's some work, and I don't want to use the word outsource because the union's in the back. They might think we're trying to push jobs out. But there's some work that we just don't have the capacity to handle. And because we're trying to do so much of it ourselves, sometimes students show up late for their events, right? The students' experiences can't be sacrificed because we are trying our best to always cut down a budget. And here's what I mean by that. If you've ever been a student athlete, there's no worse feeling than showing up to your game 15 minutes before the game starts and missing out on your opportunity to warm up. There's no worse feeling if you are a student who's being transported to an award ceremony and your bus arrives at that location after the program starts, right? That impacts our students' experiences negatively. So we've done what we could on transportation. We can't make any deeper cuts than what we've done so far. Mr. Cox, you have something?
Yeah, I just would like to, because I really want to make sure that this point is driven home. For those parents, we're working diligently with this cut scenario, to identify those parents where it would make sense. So I just want to be clear that the availability of a student to enter into a transportation contract with the district does not make it indicative of eligibility, right? So the eligibility will be based upon where your child is transported, how far that route is, the cost analysis, things of that nature. Just because you're available to enter into a contract doesn't mean that that's going to be one of the ones that we are identifying to ensure that we try to work out an arrangement with the parents or grandparents of that child.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay, and Ms. Hassan, just one last question, and this is really for clarity, because I know I spoke to you a few times, and I've spoken to the board. We just want to make sure that with this meeting, that is not the budget hearing, but we're addressing it because there's been a wide concern. With what Commissioner Smith mentioned with regard to the reserve, there's a reason why you're saying not to use the reserve. And then she was asking, was there an option to use a portion of the reserve, the $4.5 million, I believe, out of the 4.2 out of the 12.7 million. If that is not an option, can you explain why that is not an option, why that wouldn't be something that you would recommend, and how that would impact the district? And essentially, we just hired a grant company, so would that not be something that we can use to essentially try to go out and get more grants? Is it your experience? Because you were a former BA here for our district, and you're the superintendent now, but in your experience, Is it that the grants are just not there for us to have access to? Is it that hard and challenging to secure those grants? Try to kind of bring that home so that there's an understanding of why you're not recommending that particular option to us
Yeah.
as a board.
So, great question, Madam President. There's so much uncertainty right now, right? So when we're talking about our grants, say we received $100,000 this year for a particular grant, a entitlement grant like Title I, Title II, IDEA. When we create our budget the next year, we usually budget at 85% of what we got the prior year. We were told to knock that number down to 60 or 70% of what we got the prior year, just to brace for such big cuts. And this came directly from the state, right, telling us, you all need to kind of brace and understand that these are going to be major cuts we're expecting based on what we're seeing from Washington. There's so much uncertainty around it. If we call and we ask questions about these things, there's very little guidance for us. And it makes me uncomfortable as a superintendent to say, if I was at my house, in my house right now, right, and I said to my wife, listen, I need to use $1,000 out of the savings account. And I was unable to tell my wife how I was going to put that $1,000 back into that savings account, I might lose my head. And as a superintendent, if I told you all that I propose taking $4.1 million out of reserve account and I don't have a plan of how we're going to put that back, I might lose my job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any more questions from commissioners? Okay. Seeing none and hearing none?
Just one more thing.
Okay.
So within this week, you and your team has made amazing strides to getting this number down. I know that the proposed budget is due to the county April 28th, 9th. If we took a little more time, well, not we, because it's not we. If you took a little more time to reevaluate this budget, would you be able to come back to us with a tax increase closer to 0 or 0? Or no, not at all? It doesn't matter how much time you have. Can you just speak to that?
So in order to do that, we would have to reduce our force.
Okay, I just wanted it clear.
Okay, since we have no questions, no more questions from the board, then that is fine. Mr. Gray, would you like to put your motion on the floor at this time?
Sure. Motion to move public comment to now.
Second.
Been properly moved by Commissioner Gray and seconded by Commissioner Vice President Webb that the board adjust the agenda as published to move public comment to this time. You've heard the motion. Are you ready for the question? They're seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed have the same right. Motion carried.
All right. Do we have anybody in person that would like to, oh, sorry. Okay. I was trying to get y'all up there. Mr. Cox got to do his thing first.
Problem, Madam President. At business meetings, privilege of the floor will be provided for 30 minutes for the public prior to committee reports or voting. Members of the public in attendance will have the opportunity to raise concerns during this period of the meeting. Members of the public may speak once for a maximum period of 3 minutes. This time is not transferable from one individual to another. Privilege of the floor is now open.
All right. Do we have anybody that'd like to come up for public comment? Sir, I seen your hand up over there, so I want to make sure that you get your chance. You can come up. Come up to
Right to the
the
microphone, sir.
podium, please. State your name and your address as well, as stated by Mr. Cox, sir.
Hold on one second. Can we just check to see, because I'm close enough.
Can't hear the mic.
Don't worry, we'll start the time. We won't hold you to the technical difficulty. Testing.
Thad Baltimore. I'm a Plainfield resident. Okay, so in regards to the tax increase, there's a lot of development going on in Plainfield. There's, in particular, there's a lot of luxury development going on in Plainfield. In the taxes that are going to be collected on apartments, condo units, co-op units. I don't know what percentage of those apartment units are privately owned, but even on rental units. Are you projecting the increase that comes from those new units with all the development that's going on in Plainfield? Did you factor that in possibly being able to meet your revenue needs without a tax increase?
Yes, please. Mr. Hassan will answer that question.
Assalamu alaikum. Part of my seat, community members, it is, Nick, could you actually turn this up? And could you also go back to the presentation? I think it's easier to answer the question with the data on the screen for this one. It's good. Can you bring up that presentation? And it's the slide that has the scenarios towards the end. While he's trying to pull up the presentation, I wanted to be able to show you on the screen, so I think it would make a little more sense once he pulls it up, but I'll talk through it now. When the district creates its school budget and is considering a tax levy, we receive from the city of Plainfield, and this will be true of any other school district and municipality, we receive the total valuation of properties, the total value of the properties that are on the record for the township in which taxes are being collected. And that is somewhere around $1.2 billion right now. When it comes to developments, and this has come up in prior conversations, like when we talked about the pilots, if a development, the value of the property is included in that overall evaluation or valuation number, then yes, the district would receive a tax payment from that property. However, if there is a property that's being developed and is not listed on the total valuation numbers, let's say there's a pilot program as an example, that property, the value of that property would not be added to that total valuation number until the pilot expires. So if it's a 20-year program, we wouldn't see that increase on the total valuation number until it is over. Just go to the scenarios. You were there. Pull up the presentation, please, and go down one more slide. One more. One more? All right. So, all right, there you go. Perfect. Thank you, Nick. So that 1, 2 is the, right next to the tax rate, you see a number that says valuation. That's the data that we receive. So that's showing that the valuation for all of the property in Plainfield that's assessed and that the city's currently collecting taxes on
that the total value of those properties is $1.2 billion. That number is very important because it calculates, one, what the maximum tax levy can be for the school district. So we take it into consideration, but we as a school district, we get the numbers directly from the municipality based on what's on the tax records and what they've calculated as that total valuation number. So if a development is in fact paying property taxes, their number is going to be included in that. If they're not paying property taxes, then they won't be included in that. So I cannot say the value of properties in the city that aren't included in that number. That's not something that we've analyzed as a school district. So I wouldn't want to speak without having, data points on that. But this is what we receive from the city, and that's what impacts the overall tax base. And that's standard across every school district in the state of New Jersey.
Thank you, Mr. Hassan. We would have the next person up for public comment.
Hi, good evening. I'm Julian Cherry, 192 Wiley Avenue. So I stand before you as a councilwoman that sits on the finance committee that we are going to be looking at the budget within the next week. So I understand the responsibility that you have. I'm also a mom of a charter school student. I'm a homeowner, and I'm also a president and CEO of a nonprofit that throws hundreds and thousands of dollars in the city of Plainfield through the school district and through our residents. So I have a lot of questions. The first one is the 12 million. How many staff members, what does that equate to in the increase for the school district? The charter went up 5.3 million. What is that difference? Can you clarify the unclaimed property taxes in that process? And I know that it's $71 a month. That's the average. But I'm just going to stand here before you and tell you that a lot of my residents cannot afford $71. A lot of them struggle to even make ends meet. $25 is a lot. Think about the senior that is on a fixed income, somebody that's disabled, somebody that's unemployed. So I urge you to, again, go back to that reserve. I also urge you as a charter mother to work collaboratively with our charter schools. Disparaging. We need to work together. These are all of our children in the city of Plainfield. We need to be one. And that's it.
Thank you, Councilwoman. So that was a lot of questions, and Mr. Hassan can definitely try to give you a summary of answers, but we can also provide you a little more detailed answers via email, okay?
Yes. The first question as it relates to the $12 million increase, that's the increase for salaries and for benefits that we're required to contribute to and cover for our employees. In our district, we have a total of 1,600 employees, 2 bargaining units, and that includes the salaries for all 1,600 employees here in our school district. The increase for the charter schools, that is a result of the natural enrollment that they've already been approved for in their 5-year charters. Now, I did also talk about this at the, I thought I talked about this at the budget hearing. As a school district, if a charter school does not meet their projected enrollment targets for the year, as a district, we get to reclaim that money, and we do a reconciliation after the school year. So I know there's also, I think Mac Rice asked me about this at one point in time. We are, in fact, able to reclaim that as a school district, and we've done that in consecutive years. Not every charter school meets that full enrollment that they've been approved for by the Department of Education. So if they don't educate the child, they don't get the funding. What was the other question you asked? Oh, revisiting the reserves. Living off reserves, as I stated at the last meeting, that's what leads to organizations having a structural deficit.
right? Going into the reserve account is like using your savings account to balance your checking. There's only so many times you're gonna have the opportunity to do that, and if you become dependent on it, that means that if that bottom falls out, and it will at some point in time, that means your school district or organization will run a deficit. And at that time, we'd be here having a completely different conversation, right? And that's a conversation where the state comes in and now wants to come in and talk about taking over a school district. We're not there, and I'm proposing as a superintendent, proposing a budget that makes sure we don't go there and that we're not heading down that path. In an ideal situation, I would love for us to be able to use the reserve accounts. However, absent a plan to replenish them, I think it would be irresponsible for my administration to present that. And I want to say in front of everybody, thank you for your collaboration, right? The workforce development, the in-kind services that United Way provides to our students. And as we talk about grant opportunities, right? We collaborated on a grant opportunity that would see roughly $9 million come into Plainfield Public Schools to do facility upgrades. We don't know if they're even going to give out that grant money at this point in time. So when you asked the question earlier, Mrs. Smith and Mrs. Wyatt, about grants and what that looks like, we applied collaboratively for that grant, I want to say right after we came back from CUBE, which was in the fall. We still haven't heard back with a thumbs up or a thumbs down because those grant announcements were basically came to a halt. Now, had we gotten that grant, we'd be here having a completely different conversation right now because the district would have, through that partnership and collaboration, received a $9 million infusion. Can't speak to that. There's so much uncertainty around it. I don't know what's going to happen. Hopefully we get it, and if we do, that means that there's some changes that we can make, maybe build up a surplus during the end of the school year because we'll have some additional revenue that comes in, but we just don't know. And you think you had one more question? So as the superintendent of schools, I want to be as competitive as I need to be out here in this space, right? And it's important because we want all of our schools to thrive and all of our students to get the best experience possible. We have to have difficult conversations about what's going on in the space. We meet monthly, myself, members of my administration, and charter school leaders, and we talk about some challenges. Some things we discuss, there's, I think, a little more appetite to try to collaborate and partner on. But in some instances, there aren't. So I'll talk about some of the things that I have shared and introduced as a superintendent. One, pooled purchases for resources. If Plainfield Public Schools is buying the curriculum from, I'll use McGraw-Hill as an example, and the charter schools in the city are buying that same textbook and curriculum, why would we all enter into separate purchasing agreements with that organization instead of pooling our resources together to buy from them, right, and increase our purchasing power? That's one space. I've also talked to our charter school leaders about examining or exploring the opportunity to pool together for our health insurance. Health insurance is one of the biggest drivers for our organizations, right? Plainfield Public Schools, we are part of a HIF, a health insurance fund. It gives us a little more flexibility in what we're able to provide to our members. But guess what? The more organizations that join, the greater our chances are of also driving down the cost for insurance. And we've been able to have lower increases in our health insurance than the state has over the last few years. So those are like two major areas that we've put out, we've shared. We also talked about sharing services with information screening for students, because sometimes there's a delay in how we share information between our organizations. Sometimes it impacts a student's ability to get services immediately upon their arrival at their new school. So we do meet and we do, as leaders, talk about those things. We don't have a bad relationship, contrary to what anyone may think. We don't agree on everything, But one thing you won't see from us as the leaders of these educational institutions, you're not gonna see us out in the streets fighting. You're not gonna see us out in the streets calling each other names, talking down upon each other. We are gonna talk a little smack, right? Because that's that competitive edge, and we all wanna make sure that our schools are thriving. So yeah, when I see somebody, one of my colleagues getting that article and tap into, I want 2 of them now, right? And when they see something coming out from Plainfield Public Schools, they're looking at it and not saying, oh, we're competing against each other, but saying, you know what? If you're better, I can be better. If your organization is great, our kids are gonna be great. So there's no beef with us out in the space, and we welcome more opportunities to collaborate, and the board has also shared that information as well.
That's it. Yeah, I was gonna just, add to that, just like Mr. Hassan said, on behalf of the board, we welcome that collaboration, and we would love to have consistent collaboration on all fronts as it relates to all of our students. Just as you said, we love all of the students, and we're here to support them and ensure their success, and that means every student in the larger community, not just the students who attend our public schools, but yes, our students who attend the charter schools that are in our community. And so I think we want to see them thrive, but I think with the narrative and, with the media coverage and the social media and everything, I think it's being taken out of hand, because I think the larger concern is that we just want to make sure that the students are the center of all of our decisions and that they're put first, and that the narrative is not that one is better than the other, because they're just both options. You have public school, and then charter schools are an alternate option, and not necessarily a better option, because simply the data just doesn't show that. But at the end of the day, we want to support one another, because we want to make sure that all of our students within the city of Plainfield, in all of the communities, that they thrive. The students are our future. And so we welcome collaboration. So if you could help support that, Councilwoman, then we would gladly accept that collaboration, because that's what we're in the business of doing. Okay, so any other questions? Okay, come on.
Just for clarification, if you're sitting in the audience, once someone sits down, you can walk up to be next. I am stopping it when there's not active questions asking, because Mr. Hassan is taking the time to really ensure that he's answering questions on the spot. So when somebody starts, then we start the continuation of the 30 minutes.
And point of clarification, just because, thank you, Mr. Cox, for that point. The board, I think collectively, our minds were in sync, because I know Commissioner Gray was putting the motion on the floor, and I understood why he wanted to do it, but I wanted to make sure that we did the first portion of the meeting the way that needed to be done, so that you guys can hear what you needed. So when the motion got put on the floor for us to do the public comment now, ahead of us going into executive session like normally, we wanted to make sure that, well, I for sure wanted to make sure, and I talked to Mr. Hassan about this before, but making sure that you all were provided with your clarity for your questions for this evening. So, but I don't want you to think that this is how we operate every meeting, because we normally listen to the question and then we respond with a different avenue of communication, because this extends our meeting, and we do have to get to the business of our business meeting for March, because we are in the business meeting. Last week was budget hearing, and we're spending a lot of time on budget, but I want to make sure the board gets to the rest of their meeting. So I just wanted to add that point of clarification. He will continue to answer questions that he can, and if we can't, then we'll send it via email or get your contact information and reach out to you. Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, I'm Charles Sporn, 960 Woodland Avenue. I wanted to address something a couple of months ago on social media, Facebook. Somebody published a PDF of the payroll. Now, this was not a certified document. I don't know how accurate it was. I read through it very quickly. I saw a lot of positions there that were in no way descriptive of what the job holder does or doesn't do. All I knew was it went all the way from, I will say, crossing guards and bus drivers all the way to people who were in administrative positions. And I saw a lot of salaries that were in the 6 figures, some in very generous 6 figures. Some of these people may definitely may merit the salaries, and I'm not I know if we're locked into contracts, if these positions were created, that the contracts are a reality. However, the one thing that I have not heard tonight is any real focus on the possibility of layoffs of people in administrative positions and how that might be able to help the financial situation that we are dealing with right now. I can't believe that everybody who holds these positions is good at their job, and every one of these jobs is good for Plainfield. Just saying. So I haven't heard, and I haven't heard the any real the issue of an audit of people and of employees and their positions as a strategy for reducing or at least controlling the budget. The other thing that Mr. Hassan that I would like to address that you said was that I think over 400, did you say 450 people or thereabouts are employed who live in Plainfield that are on the Board of Ed, and that we would, possibly be eliminating people who are taxpayers as from being able to pay their taxes, if I'm paraphrasing correctly. The way I see that is that if that logic is turned around, I as a taxpayer am subsidizing them, and my taxes are subsidizing them, and I'm not sure I see the logic in that.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's fair. So over the last few school years, while we have made some increases in administrative positions, they've been to provide direct support in our schools. Right? We've had some additional APs that have been hired. Our organization, I would argue, is not top-heavy. When I took over as superintendent of schools, while we changed the titles for team members, everyone who's at the cabinet level of our organization was already serving in that capacity or at that level of our organization, I think with the exception of us creating the Office of Marketing and Communications. So I know from a board perspective, we've had a lot of tough conversations about that, and any support that we've needed or that I've needed specifically as a superintendent, I've tried to do that with bare bones by not asking for additional positions outside of what was approved in the org chart. I would also like to add that the regional limit, meaning the maximum for administrative costs for the school district, is $2,677 per student. Our proposed budget shows that our administrative costs will be $2,346, which is below the regional cost limit. So I'm highlighting that to show that we are not top-heavy and we're not putting the majority of our budget into administrative costs. And when we think of the support roles, teachers, professional school counselors, social workers, custodians, as much as we have those team members to do the frontline work, you also need managers and supervisors to support them. That's extremely important for us as an organization, and I'm saying as a district, I do not believe that we are top-heavy in that regards, and I believe in some instances we don't have enough administrative support, and that some team members are stretched extremely thin, doing the roles that would normally be handled by 2 or 3 administrators, because we haven't come back to ask for more positions, because our commitment has been to not be a top-heavy organization. And the board is holding me accountable to that as a superintendent.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. I have a couple of questions, and observation. You mentioned uncertainty several times.
Can you state your name for the record and
sorry.
address, please? Thank you.
Like everybody knows, my name is Robbie Campbell Assad, and I live at 1302 Marlborough Avenue in Plainfield. Okay. You mentioned uncertainty several times in your speech. Plainfield's budget is about $300 million, right? The average income for a Plainfield resident is $80,000, and the average income for a Union County person is $117,000. So you can imagine the uncertainty we're feeling as homeowners and taxpayers. So you did an amazing job recommending reductions of $4.6 million. But I would encourage you to reevaluate the professional services for redundancies as well, to offer more reductions. Also, a organization this large, I'm not sure, but do you do 3-year budget outlooks? And if so, what does that look like in terms of grant proposals or grant pipelines and endowments to support perhaps using the funds, Commissioner Smith spoke about earlier? Those are my questions.
Thank you.
So, yes, we do have an outlook. But I would say, going back to the point that I made earlier, standing behind an outlook with so many uncertainties, there are, again, a lot of unknowns, particularly with us making a shift and dwindling down, or losing, I should say, revenue sources that were once pretty solid for us as a school district and as a school community. I think that's, when we look at our professional services, we have seen some increases. You'll see that in the budget, and that is really just a matter of the object codes that we use to classify and categorize. But the biggest area that we've seen an increase for professional services that are coming into the district really have been under the area of special education, because for students to receive OT, PT, speech services, we do contract with outside providers to execute that and to provide those services for students. And we have seen increases because we've also seen an increase in the number of students we are supporting who require special services in the organization. I want to assure everyone that we have in fact looked through that with the fine-tooth comb, reduced some of our professional development in areas where we could. And you make a great point of what the overall operating budget is for the organization. It is over $300 million, and the local tax levy portion of that is $26 million. And it's been $26 million for the last 6 years. I'm not sure how long we could stay on that path or trajectory where everything else is increasing around us so rapidly. And I don't think that the increases that we're experiencing as a school district are a result of anything that we're doing. I don't think anybody in this room is entering into trade wars. I don't think anybody in this room is impacting inflation, et cetera. But it is a reality of the things that we have to deal with as a district and as an organization.
Thank you, Mr. Hassan.
Hey, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
James Abney, 725 Pemberton Avenue. I got a couple of questions. When you talked about that $12 million and using, I guess, $4.1 million of it to, I guess, close that space you have in terms of getting it down to, I guess, a zero budget, is there a thought on maybe doing half of that, maybe doing a 2.5 so you drop that bottom line number down a little bit more? That's question number one. The second one is, do we have a hiring freeze with the Plainfield Public Schools right now? And if we do not, do we have those open positions calculated into the budget, or are they not calculated into the budget? Okay, those are the questions I have, but I have one more thing while I was sitting there. I thought about it in terms of all the things and the turmoil in the country right now. We know we have a large immigrant population within our school system. We could be looking at a situation over the next several years where you are losing students, and I'm not talking to charter schools and other things. Are we looking at will we have reductions in the budget as we lose children, or how does that work? Thank you.
Thank you.
Great question. I'll start with the last question. So we would, in fact, make any necessary changes to our budget. In the original proposal that we've shared with the community, among some of the larger increases to our budget has been support for multilingual learners. So if we do experience any reductions in enrollment, we will right-size and make the necessary correction to our staffing model here in the district. Going back to the $12.7 million, I want to be clear. So in the proposal that we've provided, it does include a small withdrawal from that, and I think it's, Mr. Cox, what,
$1,100,000.
So we are, right, not saying we're taking it all, but we are proposing in every scenario that we've shown, that includes withdrawing $1.1 million already from the reserve accounts. And there was one more question that you asked.
Vacancies.
The hiring. So we, yes, I ordered the hiring freeze in January of 2025. So right around the time where the state was putting out their information with the hiring freeze, we proposed one here also for all non-essential positions.
Right.
So we want to fill our teacher vacancies and any support positions that are mandated because of a student's IEP, et cetera. We continue to hire for those, but everything else we put an immediate freeze on. We've also done some right sizing with our custodial staffing positions because that was an area where we could reduce, and we've made those changes in the budget as well.
But, yeah.
Are the vacancies budgeted for?
Yes.
So the vacancies are in fact budgeted for going into this year, but we, part of our process to developing the budget is going through our position control roster. We established the number of full-time equivalents that are needed based on the scheduling requirements. So once we create our schedule, it tells us the number of FTEs that we need across grade levels, across subject areas. And as it relates to our FTEs and support services, if we're talking someone who has to support a student because it's IEP driven, that happens on an individual basis. We try to maintain our ratios for proper supervision in our schools. We made that change to show that over the last few years, if a school has more than 250 students in it, you must have a secondary administrator in that building, not just a principal by themselves. That was the case in the district for quite some time. We have ratios of one professional school counselor for every 150 students, so they can actually provide quality service. And the ratios for our social workers, one social worker for every 300 students in the organization. We would like that number to be a little lower. And nurses, we roughly have about one for every school, but we also have floaters because we have to have them in place to administer medication in case the head nurse is absent for any reason.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Cox, we're going to allow these 3 members of the public to go. I then want to move on to our virtual attendees. We have 2 online. If public comment is still open, we'll entertain another guest that is present, but if not, then it'll probably be it. Okay, good. So we'll have these 3, and then we have 2 online. Thank you.
Good afternoon, so good evening, folks.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Matt Rice, 970 Hillside Avenue. I first want to make some observations. I actually read this stuff, and it's pretty good. It's very clear, very professional. You can track it. More so, I'm tracking the 5-year plan to our spending.
Mr. Rice, can you just grab the mic?
Sorry.
So that,
The 5-year plan to our spending, I'm seeing the connections. We spent $210 million 5 years ago, now spending $338 million. That's an investment. It's going to curriculum, it's going to facilities. We're doing what we said we were going to do for our children, so I applaud you guys for doing that.
Thank you.
thank you.
I also was concerned about the tax increase. 9 is better than 12. 4.5 is better than 9. So what's the board's next step to pursue these new cuts or even ask for more? Thank you.
Thank you. As far as the board is concerned, We're going to have our finance committee that he referenced earlier continue to meet, of course, so that they can find ways to cut costs wherever we can see more costs to be cut. However, I can't speak specifically to what those costs would be, but we're going to exhaust all of the non-staff costs that we can exhaust before we start moving on to now laying off our district staff, inclusive of teachers and the very individuals who educate our students day to day. Mr. Hassan, if you want to speak to that briefly.
Yes, so then we will continue to have conversations with our finance committee, and I'm hoping, that things will change. We get some good news, better news over the course of the next few weeks. As I mentioned that grant opportunity in collaboration with United Way. I mean, if we receive word that we received that grant opportunity, that's a game changer. I mean, it completely changes everything for us as an organization. We'll continue to have those conversations. I don't want the board or the community to think that we won't continue to look, right, for those opportunities. I feel like this time I'm trying to take blood from a stone because of the process and what we've gone through so far. But if there's anything that we can do to further, reduce that impact, we will. We certainly will.
Okay. Next up.
Hi, my name is Peter Ringley. I live at 1345 Highland Avenue. First of all, good evening to the board and the administration.
Good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Hassan, for the clarification on the travel expense budget increase. I do appreciate that it certainly needed to be clarified because the line item that was in the materials was very vague. That said, it's still a 25% increase. I understand this is less than 1% of the overall district budget, but in a year, even with these reductions that have gone from a proposed 36% tax increase to more in the mid to high teens, that's still a 25% increase in dollar value in travel expense. So I just want to, in the interest of the public trust, I think if you're going to ask the public to pay that increase in taxes, I do think that the administration and the board should be laser focused on expense control this year. Now, secondly, we've talked a lot about not drawing down the reserve, which I completely understand given the uncertainty with funding in Washington and also the state. And from a long-term strategic standpoint, I'm just putting it out there for the board. Do we have a strategic plan if the funding situation radically changes? Right now, the local taxes, it's about $26 million on a $320 million school budget. What will we do if suddenly state and especially federal funding rapidly decreases? Do we have a plan for that?
So I'll first, a great observation on the travel. So I neglected to include that in the slide deck, but you will see a change in the budget that is flat. So we've gone back and we've made the reductions in that, so it's flat, showing the same allotment that we have for this school year. And that means that some commitments for team members to be able to participate in some professional development opportunities will be reduced. What we are not going to compromise, though, are the opportunities for the students, because I think that is a huge value add. But a large part of that, again, is also the contractual obligation for team members who have to use their personal vehicles, et cetera. So that is a great point, great observation. We made it the change, but I neglected to have that updated in the slide, so please forgive me for that.
Thank you.
As it relates to our plan and what we would do, being honest with you, as a school district that relies so heavily on state aid, I would be lying if I told you I knew what we would be able to do if there was a drastic reduction in state aid. I will say this here in front of everyone. My hope is that whomever is elected to serve as the governor of the great state of New Jersey that they still hold fast to the commitment to fully fund our public education system, particularly our SDA districts like us and school districts that were underfunded for so long. We really just got to this point where the school district and the board was able to say, hire more support staff members, right? These increases didn't start until maybe, the last 3 years with S2. And in that gave the district the ability to now go and hire more support staff members. We were really operating with the bare minimum in our school district. And it's kind of shameful when you think about the ability of other school districts and other school communities to fully staff their organizations to make sure that a student receives all of the supports and services that they need. Now that we're in this position, I mean, we haven't even been here so long. And now we're at a point where we're having a very difficult conversation. This reminds me of, a time with some of the folks around this table who had previously served, right? And was having some really tough conversations about funding because it wasn't coming through from the state. In anticipation of a loss in federal funding, I have to take my hat off to our board members. They've been very diligent. Mr. Andrews is not here today, but every opportunity that he had, he asked, what are we doing to protect ourselves from the fiscal cliff? And I illustrated that at the budget presentation. Operating expenses going up, federal funding going down, revenue from state aid going up, federal funding going down. Our saving grace as a school district has been that we didn't use our grant money to cover the cost of personnel. We used the grant funding to buy things, to make investments in facilities. For school districts who use the federal funding to hire staff members, they've now incurred a recurring expenditure that they have to carry until they decide to let that person go or until they decide to bring in another revenue stream. We didn't do that as an organization. We started to move those team members over who were grant funded 2 years ago. And then we made decisions to determine what positions we needed to keep for our organization. We are also assessing for our return on investment. The district board was very gracious in allowing us to bring on board 19 intervention teacher assistants to help with our literacy initiative for our students across grades K to 5. We are monitoring that investment. If it's not a good investment, guess what? It's something that we have to move away from. We have to go through the process of redesigning to figure out how we can still provide that service. But we won't have data points for that until we finish our rounds of testing. We're in the second cycle now. We have a third cycle window that's going to open up once we hit May. And that'll give us the data points we need to assess whether or not we're getting that return on investment, which we expect to be 30% or 30 cents on every dollar.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Hassan.
Good evening,
Good evening.
board, and I have a lot of neighbors here in the community. My name is Carol Presley. I am the executive director of Neighborhood House. My address, though, is 70 Parkside Road. And I felt it necessary to tell you that I'm a director that contracts with the district because I want to speak specifically about early childhood. I know that there are a lot of neighbors here with concerns about the taxes. And this is sort of addressing early childhood is kind of indirectly supporting the concern about the raised taxes. So I want to speak first about enrollment. And I recognize that enrollment is low. My school, of all schools, is very low. I think you spoke about this in the last meeting. And so I've been in this seat for about 24 years as a director. I have over 300 students in 4 different types of programs. So I'm speaking from, I would like you to think or know that I have a frame of reference. I think we should be a little more intentional or just, I want to give suggestions. I don't want to be critical. I want to suggest that we pay attention to our marketing. our website, advertising, and getting people here. I wish that the town, as the mayor, I see the council person has left, but I really wish that the town paid attention to the impact that these new homes are, these new apartments or luxury homes are making on the families or the people who are attracted to come here. It's not families with children. It's families with dogs, pets, and bicycles. We don't see children in these apartments. It's the truth. It is. And so when you talk about enrollment in early childhood specifically, these things have impacted our enrollment. We have districts around this town that are now, collaborating with the state for free childcare. So you don't have the people rushing into Plainfield as they used to. However, we had lists, and my concern is that there was a statement made that maybe this is the universe, we've leveled off. I beg to differ. I think that we do have the children here. I think we need to advertise better. I think our website needs to be more easily navigated. The people who are in this room do not represent the people who are in early childhood classrooms. We have people who, they don't have a PC to enroll. They don't have that. So we can help them. They can go to the district helps them. But what about the people who don't get the information? I live in Plainfield. I've been getting a flyer about early childhood for years. Last year, we got a little card. This year, it came out a little better. It's not attractive. It doesn't make somebody look at it and want to read it. You know, so I think our marketing, and that's what the district can do. Of course, I have to take some responsibility and make sure that my school is advertising its existence, but we can't work against
Ms.
each
Presley.
other. Okay?
Ms.
Is there a
Presley.
question?
No, that was your 3 minutes, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
Motion to provide more time for Ms. Presley.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So, did you pass?
It's
I'm
been
sorry.
properly moved by Commissioner Gray. Is there a second? Been seconded by Commissioner Hembry to extend Ms. Presley's time. You've heard the motion. Are you ready for the question? There being none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed have the same right. Go ahead, Mrs. Presley.
Okay, so by the same token, we are doing a lot of things right, but there are a lot of things that we can take a look at to address. I think that I'd like to have a meeting with the superintendent to go over things specifically, just because it's suggestions, not based on criticisms, but my school is being affected when it comes to enrollment. So we've got to look at that differently, okay? I just have a question about the necessity of purchasing buff. When we talk about this deficit that we have here, was it really a need for us to purchase those 2 buildings? And now we're losing 11 classrooms in the district if we are not going to put early childhood back in there. We lost a classroom, school with 8 classes. So we're looking at 19 classes. I'm a little concerned about if we do have the population and if we will have the space to put those children in place. So the main question right at this point is the purchase and need for getting buff.
Thank you. That's a great question. I believe it was absolutely necessary to purchase buff, because by not purchasing it, it would have left a bigger void in our early childhood community. By us as a school district only opening one of the locations with the 155 seats we were approved for, that allows for providers such as yourself to hopefully connect with those parents to get those students to enroll in your center, to hopefully close some of those gaps that exist with unfilled seats right now. There are roughly 226 unfilled seats inside of early childhood centers in the city of Plainfield right now, and those numbers are as recent, I think, as 2 weeks ago. So I do agree that there's a need and an opportunity for us to work together. I think I stand by what I do stand behind the comment that I made about the right sizing, and I want to give context to why I made that comment.
anytime a budget is developed and an enrollment number is used to develop that budget, which determines how much revenue the district will pay out to a provider, and those enrollment numbers are not met and are not met for multiple years, there needs to be a course correction. Now, I'm not saying that the course correction that the state did was right or was exact, but I think it speaks to a problem that we've had in the community for a couple of years. And we've seen that play out where our district has had to enter or engage in some difficult conversations with some of our providers to recoup funding that they've received to provide services to children that were not provided. As far as I'm concerned, as a superintendent of this district, it is my responsibility, my fiduciary responsibility, to ensure that those funds are managed appropriately and that this school district, as the conduit for the state of New Jersey, is not paying for services that are not received. We can have a meeting to discuss conversation, or have a discussion about the supports for promotions. I think it would help us to make sure that we're having concerted conversations, collaborative discussions. I do have a plan that I'm looking at here that I received from Ms. Kaylee Brown, who oversees our Division of Early Childhood, her marketing update, which indicates promotional items such as lawn signs, banners. You discussed the mailer, but said it wasn't as good, so I think maybe that's an opportunity for us to get some feedback from our partners, right, in the future before we send it out. She has here small promotional items that are listed, some things that are being done by our internal marketing and communications team. And the last thing, but I would say the most important thing, that we are now combining the mass registration process that we used to do just for kindergarten families. We're combining that with our pre-K enrollment as well, so that we can provide more information to families and be able to ensure that folks know that we provide these services here. So I have no problem for us coordinating that meeting. I have Ms. Brown set that up so we could talk about that. I appreciate your feedback. You have been a great partner to the district, and we want to make sure that that continues, and it's our goal to help support our partners. We're not trying to take anything away from any of our partners and the providers in this community. We met with the state during the course of the summer. We're very clear about the mandates that also came down from the state, and guess what? We can't even go out and get additional seats as a school district, even if we wanted to, until all of your seats are filled. Like, that is the priority. And yes, I believe it was important for us to purchase the Buff property because the governor he's made that mandate and made it very clear that universal pre-K has to be something that we invest in our communities, right? I think this is us showing that we're also committed to that. We're not trying to take anything, but we got the phone call to say, hey, we're selling this property. We have X number of students who are serviced here. We want to partner with Plainfield Public Schools to make sure that there's a continuity of services, and we stepped up to answer that call because we thought it was a great thing for our community and not for us to take anything from our partners.
Thank you, Mr. Hassan.
Nick, do we still have 2 people online? All right.
Yeah. So, as you know, there isn't a lot of land available. If you've been to our district office, 1200 Myrtle Avenue, we have adults using a school for office space, right? We also have a demographic study that shows we are busing at the seams. It's very important for us to, as adults, administrators, et cetera, to leave 1200 Myrtle Avenue so we can bring that school back online as Jefferson Elementary School, and then allow us to make the necessary upgrades so that POS can grow and become the thriving performing arts and advanced study school that we all know, want, and desire it to be. So the Buff 1 location is not reopening with those 11 classrooms because we also know that we need to give those seats to our providers that need to fill space into their schools as well. It allows us to then move into that space to convert it into an administrative office/community center. And I think that is the win-win for all of us in that, because it allows us to make seats available for our providers in the community. And we'll partner, with everyone to make sure that happens. I will speak to Ms. Brown and make sure that we get a meeting on the books.
Thank you. Nick? Okay.
Good evening. My name is Charlene Rivera, and I live at 1326 Martin Avenue in Plainfield. I have 3 questions. Who was involved in the decision-making process for the proposed budget, and how transparent was that process? Were community stakeholders, parents, and educators given any opportunity to provide input before this budget was proposed? And what efforts were made to explore cost-saving alternatives? For example, in today's agenda alone, for the 2024-2025 summer band camp for 30 students and 4 staff members for 7 days in Florida, according to the agenda, that's costing $57,374. Is there a local summer band camp that can provide the same quality program that may be more cost effective? Also in today's agenda, under Section M, under the Office of Instruction and Programs, for all the board members to attend the NSBA 2025 annual conference in Atlanta, it's costing $23,526.92. Is it possible for 2 or 3 members to go and maybe turn key to the other board members? Under public content, for 4 people to attend the 2025 National School Safety Conference in Las Vegas, it's costing $13,734.24. Is there another school safety conference that they may be able to attend that maybe provide the same quality and effectiveness that may be more cost effective? These are just some examples. In no way, shape, or form am I suggesting that these opportunities be cut or taken away from students and or staff. However, I'm just asking, are there any alternatives, any local opportunities that may provide the same quality, and can those be explored instead of taking the first option?
Thank you. That's a great question. As it relates to the travel, particularly to attend conferences, I know that with the safety conference, I think the option for that were there's one in Orlando, Florida, or there's one at this location in Vegas, and it really alternates between those locations. So while there are some opportunities for some of these sessions locally, there are some things that we also miss when we don't have opportunities to connect and collaborate with educational leaders throughout the country. We miss the opportunity to find out what great things are taking place in these other parts of the world that we could also bring back to our school community. And some of the innovation that we've seen here over the last few years, we've been able to develop these ideas and these strategies and innovative approaches because of our ability to go into these spaces representing Plainfield Public Schools, right, to receive that information that we might not normally receive because we're just restricted to our local region. So that is something that I think we all take very seriously. Want to make sure that there's no thoughts that there's any abuse taking place as it relates to any travel for conferences or for professional development opportunities. We also turnkey that information, and every team member who attends a conference, professional development session, they are responsible for submitting a detailed report, which is also shared. We make sure that we provide all of the information with our peers and colleagues when we return from those sessions as well. As it relates to the band camp for our students, just to provide some historical context, our students, that band camp experience, in prior years, it was funded by the Alumni Association. For the last few years, our students had not been able to attend this was brought up as a request, and we stepped in as a school district to also support and to make sure that this opportunity was provided for our students, because I don't want to say they were robbed of it, because that's not the right terminology, but that experience was not funded for several years. There is something that's different and something that's unique about connecting with one of the baddest HBCU bands in the United States of America. And we want to make sure that our students also get to see that experience as Black and brown students. When we encourage them to attend an HBCU, that experience will be life-changing for our students. And I think that in totality, when we look at our operating budget, it is something that is, I think, a small price tag for something that could possibly change the trajectory of our students' lives. And as far as developing the budget, I'll talk to you about the budget process. There's a budget calendar that gets approved, I think, during the June organization meeting, and that requires conversation with multiple stakeholders internally. The expectation is that any chief or department head, director of a division, et cetera, that they work collaboratively with their direct reports to develop their budgets. We did also sent out a survey, and I'll have to get some data points to understand the reach of that. I do know that there were some team members, staff members who responded to it, but we did ask them questions about budget priorities, and we used that information to ensure that there was alignment with our budget. The last and most important part, when our board and community developed and approved the 5-year strategic plan, that was the Bible for me as a superintendent to follow, and that told me as a superintendent, it told Mr. Cox as the CFO what we needed to prioritize in our budget. And if you go and look at that strategic plan document and you look at our budget, you will see that it aligns, that we're doing the things that the community asked this organization to do during that strategic planning process. And one of those areas was to actually increase and to provide equitable professional development opportunities for everyone in the organization. And the equitable professional development may mean that I need to go and get a hands-on experience and not sit behind a desk and participate in PD in the Zoom session. Right? So I think we're in good shape with that. And again, we're following all of the guidelines that are required for those areas. And I think I answered those questions.
Yes, you did. Thank you, Mr. Hassan.
You're welcome.
We have one more, Nick?
Okay.
Good evening.
Good
Justin
evening.
Gentles, Plainfield. First, thank you, Superintendent Hassan, for always being prepared and providing clarity on the budget. Thank you, board members, for staying late and then also moving public comment up. And then thank you to the IT staff, custodial security staff for also staying late. My question is, I got two questions. Have we looked at streamlining jobs? So 1,600 staff members for 10,000 students, that's pretty lean, seems like. But have we looked at jobs where there's tasks that don't need to be done anymore and can be replaced with maybe newer tasks? You know, if we're gonna keep the existing number of people, can we streamline jobs? Have we looked at that? And then I need some clarity. When we say the tax levy of, I guess proposed was 2.92%, and that's on the property valuation, correct? Of the city?
Yes.
So is it safe to say or fair to say that, just using whole numbers, that 97% of that property valuation goes to somewhere else and 3% goes to education?
I will tell you, based on the information we received from on the tax form, roughly 25% of your tax bill comes to the district right now. The rest of it goes somewhere else, broken down between the city and the county.
Okay. And then as far as streamlining jobs, have we looked at that? Like, someone spending a lot of time sending reports that nobody looks at. Could that person be doing something different if that person exists? That's kind of where my question is coming from.
So that's a great question, and that really speaks to our strategy for workforce development here in the district, and leveraging the use of technologies to help us be more efficient and more productive. Here in our organization, we've during the course of this year, we've conducted what we call desk audits. Right, that allows us to go and analyze the functions that team members are performing, and any opportunity that we have to streamline positions, we do that. But it's not something that, as an organization, we go and we do unilaterally. We try to do that in partnership and in collaboration with our unions, because that is, I think, a delicate process that has to be handled with care, and we have to do it in collaboration and in partnership, because we're at the end of the day, with each one of those processes, with us wanting to be as efficient and as productive as possible, we also don't want to put ourselves in positions where we are stretching ourselves thin, and when we reduce a salary line because we streamline positions, all we did on the other end of that was actually increase the overtime line, because now that employee has to stay and work longer hours to complete the additional tasks that we may have provided to him, her, or they. So we are constantly looking at that. In our organization, we want to be more efficient in utilizing AI. I mean, that technology is amazing. We have a full integration with Microsoft Copilot. That's made things a lot simpler for some of our secretaries, et cetera. But I would also add that we've asked our team members to do a lot more over the course of the last few years as well, as we've built out new systems and new structures to enhance the student experience. So if there are areas to streamline job functions, we will certainly do that. That is a part of the process. We want to be innovative and forward-thinking as an organization.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gentles. All right, I'll now entertain the motion to close public. We have another one? Okay.
Madam President, the time with the stoppage time will literally end in 10 seconds, so I would suggest that.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to accept this last person that is virtual and then close public session.
So move.
Been properly moved by Commissioner Vice President Webb and seconded by Commissioner Smith to allow for this 3 minutes for this last public comment online and then close public session. You've heard the motion. Are you ready for the question? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed have the same right. Motion carried. SC, if you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, great evening. This is Sam Sakitha Cooper, Plainfield business owner. I promise I will not use all 3 minutes. I first wanted to say kudos to all of you for allowing this change in the structure of this meeting to allow for people to get some clarity, for them to get some of their concerns out, and the dialogue back and forth. I promise you it means a lot to the people that are watching, listening, and for those who will replay this later. So thank you so much for that. I just have 2 or 3 questions, and there may be an answer to it. I just didn't hear it. But do we have an active truancy officer in Plainfield? And I ask that because I know some of the population, as superintendent named them, the multilingual learners. I love that, as opposed to another way of saying people that may not have been born here, or this is, English as a second language learners. So do we have a truancy officer, is my question. Do we have a mechanism in place so that we can confirm that the children who are registering in our district do actually live in the district and in the homes that they are registering for? While I'm not a fan of charter schools, there's 2 reasons for that. Money is being taken from us. I've always said that. I've always known that. That was my question I always asked when I would come before you, in previous meetings, is there a charter school application on the table? However, we should all know, and the public needs to know, that if not for the existence of those current charter schools, there is nowhere to educate those children who attend them. So they are vital to the success of the district. And as Council Purcell said, as the President said, yes, we do need to work together with them collaboratively so that there is a seamless unit that is put forth in the district and the appearance, right? It's great to hear that we're not in any type of distress as far as the district and the budget is concerned. I assure you that that is not the trajectory or the conversation that is being had in the public. So it's nice to hear that we are not in such dire straits as some may think that we are. And lastly, is there a liaison between the board and the city? And if so, and I'm sure that answer is yes, but just humor me, how often do they meet? How often are those ideas brought back and forth to each other? And the reason for that, I will segue into, is as far as the pilot programs are concerned. I heard superintendent say that for properties that aren't evaluated with a mechanism to disseminate funds to the school district, that it would be 20 years before that happens. Well, in those 20 years, obviously someone could have had children if they were living on a property, if that was a house. So can we maybe think about the fact that that's a long time to get some money towards the school system that is already in need of funds today? So perhaps we could take a stronger look at those pilot programs in conjunction with a collaboration at the city's level to work better together to get some of those funds faster, or to have the conversation from those developers to contribute now as opposed to 20 years from now. And that's all I have. I hope you all have a beautiful evening, and thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for the great questions. We do have, we have residency officers, and to answer your question about residency verifications, I think that's where you were kind of going, making sure that folks actually live in Plainfield. So we've been very aggressive in the pre-K space, and I think you may have heard, I think in the community there was some complaints that came from some residents earlier this school year, because we were actually going out and conducting the residency verification. We did that for every student that enrolled in the pre-K space. We literally sent the body to every home to make sure that we could verify that the child actually resided or was domiciled at that location. That was one of the audit findings that we received from the legislative audit. We did find, in fact, there are so many families, right, from neighboring towns who know that we have early childhood programming here and want to come here to get it for free. Right, so there were letters and notifications that went out to multiple families. I can get, the board wants the actual details. I can actually provide that at the next board meeting. We do this, because we have over 10,000 students in the district, we don't have the capacity to send a residency officer to every home or location, but we do use technology. So this is an area where we have streamlined processes. There's a tool called LexisNexis, and it allows us to do a mass public records check against every name and every address that we provide to it. We do that search against every student that's registered in Plainfield Public Schools and in the charter schools. And it'll give us the information to say, you know what, the address that you gave us, yes, there's a match. Rashawn Hassan does live at this address. Or it will say, there's no match for Rashawn Hassan at this address, but this address came up in Plainfield. Under those circumstances, we will reach out to the family, ask them to provide us with updated information so we can update our records. Now, the third is, we don't have any record of this person, or we have a record for this person in another state. Right? So depending on the outcome of those searches, it allows us to then move forward with the next steps. We also utilize that same tool to identify students who maybe have said they were transferring to another state, but never called back and their family didn't give us the information so we can update it in the system. We're going through that process now to clean up those records because that impacts our graduation rate. We also are using that same data to send to the Department of Education for students whom we believe went back to their home country but never informed the district. So as an example, this search is checking public records throughout the country. If we can't find a record for your family in the United States of America, chances are you're no longer living here. So that is how we utilize those tools for residency verifications. And I think the other two things you mentioned were just comments, not questions. Oh, liaison. So my administration has not met with the liaison that's appointed this year. And last school year, we have frequent meetings. I had a lot of conversation with Councilman Wyatt when he was in that role, but so far we have not had meetings or discussions with the new appointee.
I do have a comment, though. I have reached out and been assured that she will reach out to me by the end of the week. It wasn't due to not being able to contact us, so we'll make that connection and she will reach out to you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that, Mr.
And it's
Webb.
Dr. Darcella Sessoms.
All right,
Thank you.
Dr. Sessom, right?
Yes.
Okay, got you. Yep.
All right, thank you. I'll now entertain a motion to close public comment.
Madam President, for point of order, public comments motion was a tandem motion.
Oh, yes, we did. Okay, thank you. All right, so I'll now entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So move.
Second.
Been properly moved by Commissioner Vice President Webb and seconded by Commissioner Smith that the board now retire into exec. You heard the motion. Are you ready for the question? There being none, all in favor? All opposed have the same right. properly moved by Commissioner Vice President Webb, seconded by Commissioner Malone, that the board now resume this meeting in the public. You heard the motion. Are you ready for the question? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed have the same right. Motion carried.
Okay. All right. Now. Yeah, I'll entertain a motion for consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved by Commissioner Vice President Webb and seconded by Commissioner Hembry as well as Commissioner Smith that the board move the agenda as a consent agenda. You heard the motion. Are you ready for the question? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed have the same right. Motion carried. Is there a motion to, I'm sorry, Madam President?
Yes, bills list and
Ma'am. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda with
Use your
all
mic, Hunter.
commissioners being noted as abstentions from their own voting on their own bills list reimbursement as well as their own travel?
Second.
It's been properly moved by Commissioner Hembry and seconded by Commissioner Smith that the board now approve this consent agenda. You heard the motion. Are you ready for the question? Just to be clear, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Hembry? Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
No to H1, no to R1.
Everything else is a yes, sir? Yes, sir. Commissioner Johnson? Commissioner Malone?
Yes.
Commissioner Vice President Webb?
Yes.
Commissioner President Wyatt?
yes.
With the voting no on H1 and R1 by Commissioner Gray and noted abstentions, all motions pass.
Thank you, Mr. Cox.
There a
I'll
motion?
now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved by Commissioner Vice President Webb and seconded by Commissioner Smith that the board now adjourn this meeting in the public. You've heard the meeting. Are you ready for the question? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed have the same right. Motion carried. Meeting adjourned at 9:41 p.m.
Bang that gavel, please.
Yeah.
Could you bang that gavel, please?